But if non-resident, if a non-reservation resident, like a white dude, is the perpetrator, then he gets tried under reservation law, which is weak and has little power to do anything. Yes. We're going to talk about Biden's new immigration policy, and then we'll get to Israel in a little bit.
This morning, President Biden is set to announce two major immigration programs. One, to protect nearly 500,000 spouses of U.S. citizens from deportation, and another to make it easier for some migrants, including so-called dreamers, to get work visas. That's according to a source familiar with the discussions. The first new policy would apply to undocumented immigrants who have been married to U.S. citizens and have been living in the U.S. for more than 10 years, allowing them to apply for legal permanent residence without leaving the country. Some children would also be protected.
Essentially, this new policy that would be aimed at keeping families together. So a U.S. citizen who's married to an undocumented spouse wouldn't have to be apart from their spouse for a long period of time just to get this legal status that they are already eligible for.
Another new policy, according to two officials, would streamline the process for young undocumented immigrants to apply for work visas.
In order to be eligible for this, you have to have received a higher education degree from an institution here in the United States, and also an employment offer in a field that aligns exactly with that major or degree that you received here.
Biden has been under pressure from immigration advocates after his executive order went into effect last month, strictly limiting asylum requests on the southern border. Why is this announcement so significant today?
This could be the administration's way of showing, hey, look, we are very clear-eyed about the fact that we need to restrict asylum, but that we also need to provide legal pathways for migrants, especially those migrants who have been here for many, many years.
Critics claim Biden's policy changes being announced today amount to a mass amnesty program, and they could face legal challenges.
Bro, this is called what American immigration policy is, by the way. Like, this has been in place for many, many years. He's just like reinstating it. As far as I understand, it's not like if you're an undocumented migrant and you've lived in the United States and you're married to an American citizen, like offering amnesty is literally the status quo. That is like normal. That is the normal process. Many other countries that do not have that do not have the same like looser immigration restrictions, like countries that are significantly more restrictive on immigration also have this policy, by the way. It is literally a normal policy to have. Okay? So this is a good thing overall. It is crazy that it's even a question. But of course, what do I always tell you? When Democrats do something positive, when Democrats even reinforce things that are good, that have been in the books, the laws that have been in the books, for example, Republicans now have something to fight against. This is an objectively good policy. It's an objectively popular policy. It is an objectively popular policy amongst Trump Republicans, mind you. That's why I always say immigration and the way that like the median voter analyzes it is truly very Americans that will be like build the wall and and deport an immigrant will also in the same breath say we should offer legal pathways to citizenship for people that have lived here. How can you want to deport every undocumented migrant while simultaneously, by the same margins, if not more popular, offer pathways to citizenship and 12 million undocumented migrants living on U.S. soil? It doesn't make any sense. This is something that you have to remember always when talking about immigration. Okay? People either look at one side of that or the other and lose sight of the fact that Americans are fucking stupid. Okay? They're just dumb. They're stupid. Do you understand? That's just, if anything, those polls show that, especially on immigration and many other issues, but especially on immigration, Americans are dumb as fuck and don't know what they actually want and don't recognize that they are simultaneously advocating for two diametrically opposite policy programs for a group of individuals. Okay?
President Biden is set to take executive action to protect about 500,000 undocumented immigrants from.
I know this, you're not quite right. Illegal entry bars you from ever naturalizing. If you enter with a visa and overstay, that that is forgiven with a marriage. DACA recipients can be naturalized by marriage. Pending or successful asylees can naturalize by marriage. Illegal entrants and rejected asylees are not eligible to naturalize even by marriage. Yes. Yes, it is an extension on the like normal process that exists though. And the argument is, for most countries, what I'm trying to say is, for most countries, marriage gives you citizenship. Like, no matter how fucking restrictive, unless we're talking about like Japan, and even Japan is actually loosening their restrictions on these sort of things. Literally, if you marry a citizen of the country, you can get a fucking citizenship. Okay? Like, there is no world in which like this is a contentious subject. It is also very popular. It is also a very popular policy. People understand this as a thing. There are television shows directly surrounding this immigration process. We used to watch them. It's called 90 Day Fiancé. Okay? Like, it's ridiculous that this is even a point of contention.
From being deported. The sweeping immigration policy will allow certain undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens to apply for permanent residency without having to leave the country. It's one of the federal government's biggest relief initiatives since DACA. That's the program that protects undocumented immigrants who came to the U.S. as children from deportation and lets them work in the U.S. CNN's Arlette Saenz.
Good thing the Dems made it an issue. No. This is the right way to make this an issue. Not the wrong way to make this an issue. Legalizing this process and creating a code for how we can offer amnesty to 500,000 undocumented migrants that are married to American citizens right now and their children potentially is actually a good thing. I will always, when something is good, when the Democrats do something good, I will openly recognize that it is good. And I will tell you that it is good. This is one of those things. This is a good thing. This is a Biden W. Okay? Having said that, however, the other side of the story, something that I'm trying to explain to you, is like how hard they will fight for this. Because will they fight hard for this? Because the Republicans will absolutely focus on this and say, see, Brandon's not with the cause. Brandon wants undocumented migrant rapist criminals to fucking have a citizenship in the United States of America. That's fucking bullshit, brother. They're giving them more rights than us. Now, on the one side, if you were genuinely pro-immigration and pro-immigrant, pro-undocumented immigrant in this country, like the Democratic Party claims that they used to be and claims that they are every 4 fucking years, then you could just say, well, guess what? We built the foundation for why that argument that you're presenting is fucking completely false. The issue is the Democrats didn't actually do that. They leaned into the reactionary framing that immigration is actually a national security problem. And so now it does look like a group of people that are being inconsistent on the matter. Okay? That's the problem here. That is the major issue. So I don't know how hard they will fight for this. I really hope that they fight for this hard. Two problems here is obviously like the Republicans are gonna now have something to pick. They now have something to yell about. Okay? They now have something to focus on, because that's what happens when the progressive party, the marginally more progressive party, actually pushes forward legislation or an executive order that is genuinely progressive. Then the reactionary Republicans can actually focus on that and attack that instead of trying to claw back all of the hard-earned, hard-fought civil liberties that the Republican Party is like basically working on undermining.
The White House for us.
What the fuck? 52.8% of offenders in cases involving criminal abuse were Native American. 73% of offenders in cases involving sexual conduct were Native American. 84% of offenders in cases involving statutory rape were Native American. What the fuck? Is this guy like a fucking... Is this like a new thing? Is this like anti-Native American arguments? Like, what the fuck's happening? What kind of racist ass shit is this? Am I misunderstanding what the fuck's going on here? The fuck? Bros from 1823? Yeah. When you say Native American, do you mean like natural? Were you trying to say, oh my God, were you trying to say natural, like US born? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God, I think he meant US born, like natural US citizen, not even naturalized, but like a, oh my God. Bro, that's so fucking funny. When he said Native American, we thought you meant like indigenous people. I'm like, there is no fucking way those stats are correct. Just bringing in who does the most, simple Google search. Wait, what? Who does the most? Like what? What the fuck? What is happening? What is he saying? Does he mean indigenous populations, like actual, like in reservations and shit? You know what he's saying? No, I don't. Because what he's saying is ridiculous. Especially because of like the population size. Okay? The population size of like Native Americans is so tiny that it's ridiculous. I don't like sex offender statistics from the United States Sentencing Commission, quick facts. It literally immediately destroys this argument. What the fuck? 75.1% of offenders in cases involving child pornography were white. 52.8% of offenders in cases involving criminal sexual abuse were Native American. Native Americans were 11.9% of sex abuse and sexual misconduct. 84.6% of offenders in cases involving in fiscal year 2018. He's alive, by the way. His wife confirmed it. No, I don't think he meant white. I think he was like straight up saying like Native Americans are doing an unimagined, like they're doing all of it. This country, they don't know. Okay, I'm good, but how if they are not good? Also, what the fuck are we talking about with Native Americans? We're talking about immigration, big dog. Like, what is happening? What is going on? We were literally talking about immigration and how immigrants are viewed in American political discourse from the framework of being rapists and drug dealers and shit. And this guy literally talks about the one group of individuals that are unironically not immigrants, like straight up, like not even remotely immigrants, like people that can be traced, people that can trace their lineage back to pre-America. And you're literally over here talking about Native Americans. What the fuck is going on? Are you making an argument for like more migration? Like what the fuck is happening here? That was to justify Gaza? Wait, what? Make sure you don't drink too much liquid when you take some medicine. Some people are clearly diluting the effects. I don't know what's happening. Yeah, stats from the U.S. Sentencing Commission are going to be federal charges. Most sex crimes are prosecuted at the state level, but tribal courts probably report their stats to the feds. Just a guess. No, you locked it. You actually fucking nailed it. That is most likely because it's considered a tribal offense. So therefore, it's not state prosecution, which is where most of the sexual assault and sexual abuse happens, but instead happening on tribal lands. And therefore, that's the reason why there's an insane amount of disparity there in the percentages, especially considering how small of a population the native population is in the United States of America. Having said that, it's neither here nor there. This has nothing to do with the conversation that we were having. Because we're talking about immigration, which is so odd to bring forward this this argument. But I'm glad that Chatter utilized his Googling technique without without really looking into it. I think Chatter just has a traumatic brain injury. Maybe he got hit with the John Fetterman syndrome. Anyway, let's continue.
Arlette, what more can you tell us about this executive action by the president? We're expecting an announcement this afternoon.
Yeah, Jim, this really marks a sweeping plan offering relief to undocumented immigrants in this country as President Biden is trying to tackle one of the thorniest political issues, border security and immigration, that has really vexed this country for decades. Now, this plan would essentially allow certain undocumented spouses married to U.S. citizens and their children to remain in the country as they apply for permanent residence. That's a change of the current policy, which requires that they leave the country to do so, really raising questions about whether they would be apprehended upon their return.
This helps like 25 people? No, it helps 500,000 people, by the way. No, it doesn't help 25 people. It helps 500,000 people. There are currently more than 12 million undocumented immigrants living on U.S. soil right now, okay? The majority of them are visa overstayers, and this immediately helps 500,000 undocumented immigrants.
They will now be able to stay here without fear of deportation. Now, this would apply to undocumented individuals who have been living in the U.S. for 10 years and married to a U.S. citizen as of yesterday. They would be allowed to work permanently or legally here in the U.S. And it's estimated.
What? This guy's saying, sorry, it's not the immigrants that we need to fear for grape. Brother, it's also not Native Americans. I hope you understand that. Okay? It's what Google says. Simple copy paste. Sorry, I was just trying to show that it isn't immigrants that we have to fear for the act of grape. No, the lawyer chatter already correctly told you. If you don't understand the full details of statistics, okay? The full details of statistics and what those statistics are telling you, without exercising a level of fucking critical thinking, comprehending that, for example, Native Americans constitute like 2% of the American population overall. Do you think that it makes sense that they would be responsible for 84% of sexual assault? Like 2% of the population? Like, think about that. 2% of the population. You would have to have literally fucking Native Americans like leaving reservations and just going on a fucking tear for those numbers to make sense. Okay? Of all the sexual assaults in the United States? No, of course not. What you have to realize is that perhaps Native Americans in the statistics that you're showing, because those are federal statistics, okay, from the American Sentencing Commission, Native American federal offenders are going to be overrepresented. Most crimes are prosecuted not at the federal level, but at the state level, okay, in the United States of America. Most crimes are happening at the state level, not at the federal level, unless it's a federal crime, okay? Native Americans, however, given that they live on reservations, are prosecuted at the federal level, which is precisely the reason why the statistics that you're showing actually show this major disparity. Native Americans being 2% of the population, yet comprising 11% of the prison population for the offense characteristics, means that there is a massive disparity here. Where could that disparity come from? Well, that disparity actually comes from the fact that because they are Native Americans and live on reservations, the criminal prosecution for the reservations happens on the federal level. Said, yeah, 1 in 3 Native women will report being sexually assaulted on the reservation. I think First Nation numbers are similar. It's been a very bad problem for decades, but a huge number of those crimes are done by white men. The statistics worded very weird. Yeah. There's also a massive problem with sexual assaults against Native Americans. They make up a massive amount of the victims in that regard as well. And there's also there are studies conducted on that as well. Here. Sexual assaults on Native American reservations in the U.S. Sexual assaults have been identified as a public health crisis. Native American women in the United States who live on federal Native American reservations are disproportionately more likely to be victims of sexual violence than other groups in the United States. Like many victims of sexual violence, often Native women deal with adverse health effects. Native American women who have been sexually assaulted on a reservation are often unable to access necessary resources because of the myriad of issues such as poverty, child abuse, colonialization, and complex jurisdictional issues. There must be more cultural sensitivity and increased awareness when working to address this issue. Additionally, each tribe must be approached separately because each tribe experiences sexual assault on the reservation differently. There must be understanding that the generalizability of the Native American tribes in sexual assault is ineffective. 1 in 3 Native American women report being raped during their lifetime at a rate 2.5% higher than other groups. White men commit a large percentage of the sexual assault crimes against Native Americans. I'm going to repeat that one more time. White men commit a large percentage of the sexual assault crimes against Native Americans. Sexual assault has serious physical, emotional, and economic effects. Jurisdictional issues, lack of resources, gender, poverty, race, and child abuse all play a part in this issue. We have completely sidestepped from the major point of contention here. Okay. Noam Chomsky's wife confirmed he's hospitalized in Brazil as of 15:26 Eastern Time, June 18th, 2024. Yanis Varoufakis retracted his article claiming Chomsky passed away. Once again, chatters, you need to shut the fuck up sometimes, okay? There are serious limitations with finding one solution and model for Native women across the United States. There are many different experiences, cultures, tribes, and demographics. Each tribal nation must approach sexual violence survivor advocacy differently because of the vastly different laws and cultures throughout the tribes in the United States. While it is helpful to do research on general ideas for Native women, for example, culturally sensitive advocates, each tribe must be researched in more detail. Research and prevention efforts must include children who have been sexually abused. There's little evidence of the outcomes and progress currently. So, how do we end up talking about this? Because a chatter came in here and was like, Native Americans are just, you know, massive rapists, is what he was trying to fucking say. My understanding is that any tribal person who commits a sexual crime is under federal jurisdiction regardless of the status of the offended party, but any non-tribal person committing a sexual crime against a tribal person, it is unclear. It is under tribal jurisdiction, which is very limited in their ability to prosecute. Yes. I am so sure he didn't mean indigenous people. Hasan just keeps going with it. No, he did. He did mean that. Okay? It is not a misunderstanding. He did mean that. He doubled down on it. What the fuck are you talking about? He literally did. We found the statistics that he was bringing forward. Okay? We found the statistics, and now I'm describing to him why he misunderstood the statistics that he's posting. Okay? He was trying to do 1350 shit, but for Native Americans, because he was looking at federal offenders, okay? He was looking at federal offense statistics. Native Americans predominantly live in tribal territory, in reservations. Therefore, sexual assault, which normally is prosecuted under state courts, sexual assaults which are normally prosecuted in state courts, and by the way, there is already like and is a state statute which is already complex and shitty in the way that we process it, and also in the way that we analyze it amongst like white Americans and black Americans and like and non-native populations in general. But this adds another layer of complexity, because sexual assaults done by Native Americans are under federal jurisdiction. Therefore, they are overrepresented as offenders under federal jurisdiction, not because there is just like a massive amount of Native Americans that are going around and doing rapes, but because Native Americans living on reservations for the most part will be handled in federal courts rather than state courts. But if a non-reservation resident, like a white dude, is the perpetrator, then he gets tried under reservation law, which is weak and has little power to do anything. Yes. Check this out. Good news. I have never see it. Oh, okay. Reports Noam Chomsky has died are fake. His wife, Valeria, tells me he is well. Anyway, in other good news, we're gonna move away from this point here. And if you are, Jacobin took down the obituary, good. We're gonna get back to the new sweeping immigration policy, which will also sweep your mind at the top of the hour if you are not subscribed. I don't even know what that fucking means, but it doesn't matter. I'm just serving the 3-minute ad break. God damn it, dude. Fuck it. Okay, here's the 3-minute ad break now. Just subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime, or you will see the 3-minute ad break. Fuck you. Here's we're getting back to this point.
About 500,000 spouses of U.S. citizens and then 50,000 children. Now, this comes just a few weeks after President Biden announced that major crackdown at the U.S. southern border, shutting off the ability of migrants crossing illegally to seek asylum when a certain threshold is met. That is something that polling has shown a majority of Americans have agreed with. If you take a look at a poll released a bit earlier this month, it was 70% approved of that action, 30% did not. But the move really frustrated a lot of immigration advocates and progressives in the president's party. So part of what Biden's trying to do here is appeal to some of those groups, deal with some of their concerns. And also it's a move that could appeal to Latino voters in key states like Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia.
All right, Arlette Saenz over at the White House for us. Thank you so much. In the meantime, Republicans are already slamming President Biden's executive action on immigration. And of course, former President Donald Trump has been offering a much more draconian vision for his immigration policy, promising mass deportations and detention camps for undocumented migrants, blasting those who cross the border illegally as, quote, poisoning the blood of this country. Let's discuss with CNN political commentators Maria Cardona and Scott Jennings. Maria, you're with me here in the studio. Let me go to you first. You were telling me you might be over there at the White House later today for this announcement. What do you think? Obviously, this is going to be welcomed by progressives, Latinos in this country, because just recently the president announced a pretty tough policy cracking down on asylum at the border. What do you think?
But this is more than it being welcomed by Latinos and progressives. It's going to be welcomed by the majority of American voters. We have seen in poll after poll after poll that the American people are not anti-immigrant. They're anti-chaos. They want solutions. And guess which party has been the one that has been offering the solutions that the American people want and that we know work? Those solutions are based on a balanced approach, strong, smart border security, which, frankly, the President Democrats tried to do with Republicans on their bill until they said absolutely not, because Donald Trump wants to weaponize the issue, not solve it. And so President Biden had to take executive actions on his own to shore up border security. And so now President Biden is taking the second step, which is expanding legal pathways. Again, something that the vast majority of Americans in swing states support. And this is what the solution looks like. Democrats have been trying to do this for decades. It has been Republicans that have been the ones, especially since Donald Trump came on.
Do you guys see why this is stupid? Do you understand why this is a stupid argument to make? Democrats are trying to fucking stop the immigrant rape and crime with reasonable, sound, right-wing policy. Like, you can't literally, on the one hand, advocate for amnesty while simultaneously say, well, some immigrants need to be deported, okay? It is very, very, very stupid. It is very dumb.
Onto the scene that only want to weaponize this issue.
Yeah, Scott, let me ask you, I mean, do you think that Republicans in Congress sort of missed an opportunity there? They had a chance, they had a
Yes, I will be watching the fucking debate. Of course, I am very excited. And Noam Chomsky didn't die. Noam Chomsky didn't fucking die. Shut the fuck up. Noam Chomsky's not dead. Ah!
bipartisan bill that James Lankford from Oklahoma was helping to shepherd through the Senate.
You both weaponized the issue?
And now, because, you know what, guys, let's not do this until after the election. The president's going out there and doing executive actions.
I don't know, maybe. I mean, they couldn't get Congress to agree. It's not the first time an issue couldn't find agreement in Congress. Won't be the last. I mean, if you're worried about reliving the past, why didn't Joe Biden do this on his first day in office, as opposed to doing it today here in the shadow of a presidential campaign? I mean, the reality is he's governing by political panic. If this is such a great idea, why didn't he do this on day one? Why didn't he do last week's executive order on day one? Why did he cancel all of Trump's immigration orders? I agree with Maria. People are tired of chaos, and they believe the chaos has been caused by Joe Biden and the way he's handled this for the last 3.5 years. The polling is clear. By the way, politically, I don't think the American people are in a pro-amnesty mood right now. You look at what Trump is proposing.
See?
There's a lot of polling that shows
No, there isn't. There's a lot of polling that shows we have to fucking deport all immigrants. And then there's a lot of polling that also from the same fucking people shows we have to give amnesty to all the immigrants that are living on U.S. soil. Okay? Those polls are fucking idiotic. You can literally show the exact same thing. New York Times went into the focus group on people who are reluctantly voting for either candidate or people who do not know if they want to vote for either candidate. And focus groups are obviously not the same as polls, but it does kind of show how people can have the same exact opinion in the same fucking brain, okay? There were people on that focus group that the New York Times talked to that literally said in the same breath, I like Trump's policy of deporting 12 million undocumented migrants. And then they were like, well, what do you think about amnesty to all of the undocumented immigrants? And they said, yes, I like that as well. We've been doing this for years. I've been covering this shit for fucking years, okay? Especially immigration. Especially immigration. Me being a motherfucking, anchor baby myself, this is something I've talked about quite a bit. And everything points to this weird inconsistency in the minds of Americans. It just shows that Americans are fucking stupid, okay? That's it. So even if you're looking for the popularity narrative for, helping your reelection chances, you can lean on either side of the issue, okay? This is why I think it is a major L for the Democratic Party to capitulate to right-wing framing on the matter. One, because it's not correct. The underlying premise is just incorrect. I'm not even saying like, oh, they're confused, they're misguided. It's just straight up objectively incorrect. The empirical evidence shows that undocumented migrants do less crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens, okay? That's it. So the underlying premise is built on Republican hysteria and nothing else. There is no real fucking argument for this, okay? A lot of this issue when it comes to immigration being a major burden on the economy, all of that is built around complete falsehoods, okay? Complete falsehoods. And yet, because Republicans run this line so frequently, and Americans are so fucking stupid, they eat this propaganda, that you see the Democratic Party capitulate to it because they look at the polls and they're like, well, everyone's real reactionary about, migrants. It seems like we have to also say that migrants are bad and doing rape or whatever the fuck. The adequate way to deal with this issue is by looking at the underlying premise, okay, and tackle it head on and consistently drive home the narrative in the same way that the Republicans have for years and years, okay, and do the same fucking shit that CNN was doing for years when Donald Trump was president. Some people say this is an apple. Some people say this is an orange. It is our job at CNN to show you that this is an apple. That's what they were doing when Donald Trump was president. But when Joe Biden is president, they immediately turn back to their fucking reactionary framing. And they get completely guided and motivated, not by truth, not by a defense of like the Democratic Party in general, but specifically by what the fucking Republicans are saying on Republican media. It is so crazy. It blows my mind. If you ask me about the fucking Hezbollah drone footage one more time, I'm going to ship you into Gaza, okay? Shut the fuck up. It's on the docket. We are going to cover it. Oh my God. Why do you think I would not cover that? Of course I'm going to cover it. This dude has just been non-stop posting it over and over again. Bro, when are you going to watch the Haifa footage? When are you going to watch the Hezbollah Haifa footage? When are you going to watch the drone footage from Haifa? Hezbollah has a Haifa drone footage. I know, dude. I know. We're going to cover it.
Majority support for what Trump is saying, including among Hispanics in the United States of America. They like what Trump is saying about cracking down on illegal immigration.
What about detention camps and mass deportations? What about that?
Mass deportations has majority support in the United States and among Hispanic voters.
No, it doesn't. And even if it was popular, it still doesn't change the fucking reality that it is gross and inhumane. Okay? Wow, dude. The majority of Americans think black people should, We should go back to segregation for black people. Are we going to do that? Does that sound like a good idea? Would you advocate for that? Oh, he's not wrong. U.S. population is radicalized at the bazoo on this issue. Biden is forced to capitulate. There has never been a fucking time in American history, at least in contemporary American history, okay, where Americans haven't been at least like majority pro-amnesty. Do you understand that? It's the same fucking people. It is the same fucking people that are saying yes to, would you support deporting all undocumented immigrants? Do you understand? Do you understand? I keep trying to describe something to you. There was 90% approval of giving permanent citizenship, granting permanent citizenship to the Dreamers. There's 70% approval historically, okay, on amnesty, mass amnesty. Oh, you need to understand this. Americans are of two different minds in the same mind when it comes to immigration. Okay? About 6 in 10 Trump supporters favor a national effort to deport undocumented immigrants currently living in the U.S., changing views on how the country should handle undocumented immigrants. Growing share of voters say undocumented immigrants should not be allowed to stay in the country legally. This poll was just posted yesterday. Biden had a 64% disapproval rating on immigration. Yeah, here, you know what's really funny about that, by the way? Okay, you know what's really funny about the fucking Biden disapproval rating? Biden had a higher approval rating on immigration when he was running against Donald Trump in 2020. Biden had a higher approval rating on tackling immigration when he was running against Donald Trump and was objectively to the left of Donald Trump on immigration and not trying to catch up to Donald Trump on immigration. The idea that you can capture the essence of the right-wing framing and become the "we are going to mass deport immigrants" party as a Democrat is so laughable. All you are doing is basically solidifying the faulty premises of where this argument comes from. The right-wing framing on the issue that immigration is a national security problem is completely, objectively ridiculous. Okay? Lies making me hate you. What? What is happening in the fucking chat? No, them. They're making me hate them. Oh, you mean the Democratic Party? They're making you hate the Democratic Party. Oh my Lord. This is literally, the more Biden talks about the border, the fewer people like what he's done there. The latest poll from UK magazine, The Economist, and Public Opinion YouGov is out. So you have to remember when Biden was actually woke, quote unquote, woke on immigration, when he was running on like offering amnesty, when he was running on offering amnesty, when he was running on shutting down the deportation processes that Donald Trump had put in place. Okay. When he said that, he was more popular on the issue of immigration. He was still losing to Donald Trump on immigration because Americans are reactionary in general, but Americans literally voted for him because he was going to stop the family separation. He was going to stop all of that shit. He was going to shut down the detention centers. Like, these were the things that he was running on, and he was objectively closer to Donald Trump on the issue of immigration in the eyes of the American population. When immigration under Donald Trump was seen as a genuine, cruel policy, right-wing immigration is absolutely fucking cruel. Right-wing framing on immigration is born out of hysteria. Okay? So the Democratic Party, instead of leaning on that and saying like, no, we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. The real issue with immigration is processing. Instead of doing that, running on the 2020 positions that Donald Trump had is insanely bad. Is unimaginably stupid. Of course, we're moving further and further into we should deport all migrants territory because right-wing framing is dominating the conversation. What would you say to the right-wingers and liberals that claim immigrants depress wages? Immigrants do not depress wages. The two-tiered immigration structure depresses wages. Okay? That's it. The solution to that is amnesty and documentation. The solution to that isn't to just be like, oh yeah, we're going to scare the 12 million undocumented migrants that are literally working every goddamn day on U.S. soil to, you know, that are basically the backbone of our agricultural output. Yeah, we're going to fucking deport all those guys. No, you're not. No one is going to deport those guys, okay? The conversation surrounding immigration has to happen so that there is a two-tier immigration structure in this country. Noam Chomsky's daughter, Aviva Chomsky, wrote an entire book on this, by the way. It's a really good book. I highly recommend it. I forget the name of it now. It's not coming to mind currently. I'm sure someone will mention it. Aviva Chomsky is her name. Noam Chomsky, who is not dead, by the way, contrary to what people think because they see shit on Twitter. I believe the name of the book is Undocumented. Anyway, right-wing framing isn't even what the right wing believes, at least when it comes to immigration. They've never and will never be pro-deportation when push comes to shove unless they want to tank our economy and labor force even further. Yes. Undocumented, how immigration became illegal. It tracks the history of anti-immigrant, white nativist immigration policy making in the United States of America. The American population is becoming radicalized against immigrants rapidly. We are sliding into fascism, and that means the population is adjusting to the political landscape. Yeah, it's the Democrats' fault, but that doesn't change that it's been trending in the wrong direction for a decade now. It's not just Biden's messaging. We also had the highest influx of immigrants in American history last year, and I don't know, maybe that plays a part. No, I think that plays a part, but knowing that that was going to happen and it's going to get significantly worse from that perspective, especially when you consider climate change and like the new wave of climate migrants that are going to be coming in as well, you have to set up this country ahead of time so that we do not fucking slide into fascism, which we are, you know, going to slide into fascism. We are sliding into fascism right now. It doesn't really matter. My friend insists that we need to know everyone that comes in the U.S. is the reason why we should restrict immigration. I tell him that it's nativist rhetoric sublimated to be digestible for libs like him. No, tell him, okay, that's great. If you want to know every single person that comes into the country, set up the processes so that people can be, you know, correctly documented. Don't shut off pathways to immigration that you rely on, for the record. The reason why the American population is not aging out in the same way that like the Japanese population is because of immigration, okay? Both documented and undocumented, especially undocumented. People don't understand that there is no current real pathway for immigration into the country for many of these people that are coming in illegally. And that is the reason why they're coming in illegally. If there was a legal pathway, then of course they wouldn't come in illegally. The problem is we have to look at this completely differently. We are not able to look at this completely differently in the exact opposite way that we've analyzed the situation. Yeah, that's a great, actually, this is a great analogy. Shouts out to Gaben. Piracy is a service problem. You're right. You're absolutely correct. Piracy, for the most part, is a service problem, right? That's what Gaben says. In Gaben, we trust. Immigration, or at least like undocumented migration, is the exact same issue. Undocumented migration is a processing problem, okay? And it's a processing problem that is built that way specifically to benefit capital owners, to benefit corporations, to benefit the poultry industry, to benefit the agriculture industry, okay? Because if those guys are undocumented, you can abuse them. If those guys are undocumented, you can fucking, you know, do slave wages, basically. And when they chirp up, when they actually demand the back pay that you refuse to give them, what happens? Well, now we are going to kick you out of the country. And then boom, go back to the same exact communities and literally bring in a new crop of undocumented migrants. Professor Michael Clemens says for every million undocumented immigrants deported, 88,000 U.S. native workers will lose their jobs. Economists criticize Trump's plan to deport longtime immigrant workers. Thoughts on Friedman? Was he evil like Chad is saying? Yes, he was unimaginably evil. What do you mean? Do you not hear what he's saying here? He's saying that, like, immigration is good as long as they stay undocumented because we can exploit them. He's saying the quiet part out loud. He's basically saying what I'm saying, but on the other side. I say that all the time and tell you that it's bad. He's saying it and saying it's actually good. I'm a DACA recipient that was brought here in 1992 and have been married to a U.S. citizen since 2009. I work and pay taxes, not a criminal, still illegal immigrant. The system is so screwed up. The immigration structure in this country is designed around basically legalizing slavery. It kind of works alongside the prison industrial complex in that same exact way. Okay? It's just a way to depress wages for the documented working class. It's a way to undermine all labor across the board by literally fucking constantly taking advantage of a steadily growing, additionally hyper-exploitable class of workers, okay? Now, one thing you have to understand is that if we were really fucking racist, if we were like actually racist and didn't and weren't doing this specifically for capitalist reasons, what we would do here in the United States is actually punish businesses that do hire undocumented laborers, okay? That would stop immigration dead in its fucking tracks. Undocumented immigration dead in its fucking tracks. Right now, however, we don't do that. And the reason why we don't do that, and we have like basically a law in the books that you get a slap on the fucking wrist if you are calling ICE on your own workforce because they are demanding back pay, for example. That is simply a mathematical calculation for are profit-seeking corporations. As long as the punishments for the companies do not go above the profit that they make off of hiring and exploiting undocumented laborers, this issue is not a real issue born out of like the real fears. It's fucking bullshit. People might watch Fox News on a regular basis and develop real fears, okay, about undocumented immigration or immigrants or whatever the fuck, but that doesn't change the reality and the way that capital owners calculate this. That's why you see so many people who are like anti-immigration hire undocumented migrants on a regular fucking basis. It's because it's beneficial for corporations to have undocumented immigration. The real fix to that problem is by documenting them, okay, and allowing them to participate in the documented labor force and allow them to also unionize alongside the documented labor force. But we won't do that because that would hurt the profits, okay? The worst part about it is that you see a similar structure for this already, like H-1B visa processes, right? That already is like creating a two-tier immigration structure that is legalized. You can still exploit people by taking advantage of the currency exchange. You can still exploit people by taking advantage of the fact that like they are coming from very poor countries, but that's not enough for Americans in general. They want to do it even in a... The American government wants to be even more fucking cruel. Okay? That's the point.
Right now. It's recent polling. You can look it up. No. It is at Maria. No. Maria, it is absolutely true. When we get off the air and you Google it, you're going to be embarrassed, but it's absolutely true.
I will send you the actual polling from pollsters who actually know how to poll on this issue.
You're going to be embarrassed.
I will send this to you after our segment.
The CBS poll, 53%.
I have issues with that poll because of exactly what I'm saying. But I do want to answer Scott.
Whoa.
The counter to that literally is to say, oh, that's really interesting. Even under the Trump administration, 70% of Americans, which included the majority of Republican Party voters, wanted a pathway to citizenship for all undocumented migrants that have been on U.S. soil, especially those who have been on U.S. soil for 10 plus fucking years. Okay? It's a bullshit push poll. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You need to understand. You need to understand something. Americans on the issue of immigration will literally say the most inconsistent shit. Okay?
Who's right? I just want to make sure people don't miss it. Who was right? I just want to know who was right.
I want to answer Scott because he actually posed an interesting question. Why didn't Biden do this the first day in office? Actually, Scott, President Biden did try to do this the first day in office. The very first thing he did when he walked into the Oval Office was he put a bill together that actually does strengthen border security and expands legal pathways because he wants to do this right. He wants to do this the way that it's supposed to be done, working with Congress. But then guess what? Congressional Republicans slammed the door on any opportunity that would expand any legal pathways. And what we know from what happened under 4 years of President Trump, and this is something that Republicans lie over and over about, is that he eviscerated all of the legal pathways, including our asylum system, and he did nothing to eradicate illegal immigration. His numbers on illegal crossings went up his last year in office. So when President Trump was in office, he did nothing to fix this. He made it worse. And now it's actually kind of rich because what this also does, Scott and Jim, this keeps American families together. When Republicans scream that kids need a father and a mother, well, guess what? Then join us because this is exactly what this executive action is doing. And again, the vast majority of Americans, and I will send you the polling on this, Scott, from pollsters who know how to poll on this, absolutely agree with this. It is upwards of 3/4 of the American people support a balanced approach of strong border security, which I know you agree with, but also expanding legal pathways, especially for the long-settled immigrants that have been here who have contributed more than $7 trillion to our economy.
Scott?
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually just going to give in and say that I think Maria should go over to the White House today and encourage Joe Biden to run on as much amnesty as possible. I think if that's the way you want to read the polling, if that's the way you want to interpret the mood in the country, Scott, I think you should go over there and say, you know what, President Biden, the American people are behind you. Let's encourage as much of this as we possibly can. I think you ought to. I'm all in.
No, Scott, but here's the thing. Here's the thing, Scott. They are behind him on this action. And it's not amnesty, Scott. You know better. You're a smart.
Look at that. She's like scared of saying the word. Like, I think that it's crazy that even the word amnesty, which is something that Ronald Reagan did, is considered by Democrats to be a bad thing. Okay? Obviously, if you have completely caved to the right-wing framing on this fucking issue, okay, then yeah, there is no fucking way that you can win this conversation. There is no reasonable voices on the left on this issue in a position of power. Aren't underground non-market activities not captured in the GDP? What incentive does the government have to create a two-tier labor system if it doesn't boost the GDP on paper? What are you talking about? Do you think that like payments to the undocumented migrants is the most significant part of this? No, it's fucking profits, dude. It's literally every aspect of our agricultural output relies on an overwhelming majority of undocumented migrants working. It's still labor, even if it doesn't reflect, even if the payments don't, I I mean, it's not, it's also usually not like under the payments themselves are not like, you know, under the table. They're not like fucking paying them cash. Like they have fake social security schemes and shit like that they set up. Undocumented migrants pay taxes on that stuff too, even if they don't have access to the same benefits. It's not an informal economy, chatter. It's an undocumented labor market. Yeah, they pay taxes. Like you're thinking of like undocumented migrants. You're thinking of undocumented migrants as like a group of people that you pick up outside of Home Depot and then like pay cash. That's not how this works for like Purdue. You know what I mean? Like the chicken plant. I'm not talking about Purdue, the drug manufacturer, or the Purdue family. I'm talking like, you know, every piece of like food that you consume has been touched by undocumented labor in a very meaningful way. This is not like they're not getting paid. They're not getting paid under the books but with cash. Yeah. Tons of immigrants have fake documentation. They are on the payroll, normal as anyone. Yeah. There is definitely an attitude change as far as like mass deportations, but I personally suspect it's not dissimilar to the way that like people want a certain policy until it actually happens, because a lot of people don't recognize that mass deportations would destroy the American economy. It'll never happen in the way that like the Republican Party is advocating for it. Because if that was the case, they would first and foremost punish corporations. The entire agricultural industry would be destroyed overnight. Okay? It's Brexit. It's so much worse than Brexit. Like, you would not have food. Food prices would fucking go... food prices would go up so much. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, there is no dairy industry, no chicken, no fucking steak, no fruits, no vegetables, no food. Construction would be destroyed as well. But like, there's no service industry. There's no food. There's nothing. There literally is nothing. This is what I'm trying to explain to people. The entire conversation surrounding like deporting undocumented migrants is like built around this fucking fake hysteria in terms of like, oh, they're doing crimes. And it is only a back and forth cycle that has to be had, because if you were to recognize that like undocumented immigrants are actually human beings who are incredibly important to the American economy, then you would start developing sympathies for them, and then you would recognize them as the human beings that they are, and then it would make it much easier documented, which ultimately would hurt the bottom line of all of these corporations that rely on undocumented immigration to keep the cost of food products and shit like that low. It's ridiculous. Once again, 12 million plus undocumented migrants living on U.S. soil, many of which are here for a decade plus. What are you going to do? You're just going to do Gestapo-style fucking, you're going to continue on the Trump era deportation policies that were already in place, that were like being utilized, never to the same degree as like what Trump is now advocating for. Okay. And there are places where they tried this, for the record. A year later, Florida businesses say the state's immigration law dealt a huge blow. It's early morning in this small agricultural town of Central Florida. The pickers are already hunched over the bushes, plucking strawberries, the main crop out there. Fidel Sanchez instructs his workers to get rid of the fruit that fell and rotted the ground. There's a lot of it. Like the other farmers out here, Sanchez is worried about how long he will be able to keep this business going. About a year ago, Florida governor and then presidential candidate Ron DeSantis passed one of the toughest crackdowns on immigration in the country. SB 1718 punishes employers who use undocumented labor and forbids undocumented people from having a driver's license. Many local Florida businesses say the new law has led to workers leaving the state, hurting their bottom line. A lot of people are scared, says Sanchez. A lot of people went north and never came back. The federal government estimates nationwide over 40% of farm workers are undocumented. And then another fucking 35 to 40% are also documented but migrant workers. So that's like another part of the puzzle as well. But the overwhelming majority of farm labor in this country is migrants, okay? Families he worked for 20, 30 years were gone from one day to the next. The government doesn't seem to care, he says. Maybe they think the crops are going to pick themselves. Florida Policy Institute estimates this immigration law could cost the state's economy $12.6 billion in its first year. That's not counting the loss of tax revenue. A spokesperson for Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, told NPR, Governor DeSantis signed the most ambitious anti-illegal immigration law in the country to protect Floridians. They also stated that Florida can still maintain a robust economy. Ron Hetrick, a senior economist at Lightcast, a labor market analytics company, says the problem is the state has a serious labor shortage. The Pew Research Center estimates there is close to 1 million undocumented people. Even if it's just a fraction of them were to leave, Hetrick says, how do these cities get built? How do these houses get built? We all know very well how these things are built. Hetrick says what Florida is facing is symbolic of the larger reality of the country, where there's an aging population and politicians framing immigration as a threat rather than fixing a broken system. The future, if you look at the census projection for growth in this country, once this boomer population goes through in the next, 15 years without immigration, we shrink. A spokesperson for DeSantis told NPR the businesses are still free to hire immigrants as long as it's done legally. In 2023, Florida hired thousands more H-2A guest workers than the year before. But farmers NPR spoke to said the bureaucracy and the cost of applying for these work permits is crippling. There have also been widespread reports of lack of oversight and exploitation of H-2A workers. This is the other side of the puzzle as well. Honest question, doesn't this show that the right would absolutely try to mass deport? No, because this is a phenomenally unpopular fucking policy. That's the point. The reason the Bracero program was even passed was because white people had no intention of picking fields or working in the agricultural sector in general, even while they themselves were starving during the Great Depression. Latin migrants have always and will always be the backbone of American food. Yes, but the other part is also the wars too. World War I, World War II. I think that like that was the other reason. But during the Bracero program, that it was actually the Texas hicks that were literally fucking shooting federal marshals for trying to come in and deport undocumented or rather documented migrant laborers in the Bracero program. Unauthorized immigrants and U.S.-born workers have different industry profiles. Percentage of each status group worker who's in each majority industry in 2014. Business services, other services, unauthorized immigrants, 22 versus U.S.-born. Leisure and hospitality, 18%. Construction, 16% to 6%. Manufacturing, 13% to 10%. This is from 2014. Education, health services, financial activities, information, public administration, 37% documented, 12% undocumented. Wholesale retail trade, 12% undocumented, 15% documented. Have you ever heard of Operation W slur? Yes. It is, yes. The wet slur. That's what it was called. Operation the anti-Latino slur. Anyway. Yes, everything, especially the Bracero program, is covered in the Aviva Chomsky book, Undocumented. The H2A system is absolutely broken, says Gary Wishnasky, head of Wish Farms, also in Plant City. This is one of the largest strawberry growers in the nation. His field harvesters in Florida are on H2A visas. It's only means of getting workers on the farm right now, but it's totally outdated. Even for a company as large as it is, the cost has become crushing, he says. They're also fucking complaining. That's the other side of it. Do you see? Because even when there's like a little bit of documentation, they're like, oh, we can't fucking exploit them as hard. This is the real reason as to why they will never advocate to document all of the undocumented laborers. Do you understand? Even for a company as large as it is, the costs have become crushing. It has to pay a recruitment company, visa fees, housing workers, pay for meals and transportation. The The shortage of workers is not just impacting agriculture. NPR spoke to hoteliers, construction business owners, and restaurateurs who said Florida's labor shortage, combined with the arthritic national immigration policies, is hurting the bottom line. Years ago, you put an ad in a newspaper, you'd have a bunch of applications filled out. You'd have people lined up outside your door. CFS Roofing Services in Fort Myers owner said, because Florida is in the path of hurricanes, roofing is in high demand here. In recent years, Fort Myers has been especially hard hit, and Crowther says it's been a challenge to find workers at all levels, from managers to roofers. Crowther's company lost about 10% of his workers after Florida passed the SB 1718 immigration bill. These workers were scared for the safety of their undocumented family members, he says. Crowther says he could hire more immigrant labor. It would ultimately trickle down into more jobs for American workers. If I knew I could get an unlimited supply of labor, then I would start hiring estimators or salesmen over the start of promoting more work. It's a domino effect. Crowther, along with the National Roofing Contractors Association, has been petitioning for an expansion of the H-2B visa program, which provides temporary non-agricultural visas. Crowther says business is good, but it could be so much better if only he could find more workers. For the others in Florida, the law created a climate of fear. A few miles north of the fruit farm, a woman sitting in the cool shade of her fruit stand says she dreams of leaving. Anna Marie Perez got to Florida 20 years ago, but things have changed. As a Latina and a business owner, she says it makes no sense to stay. Farmers don't have the workforce they used to, so now the cost of fruit rose for us. Perez started as a fruit picker when she came from Mexico. She says it was physically exhausting, so she stopped after she became a legal resident. The fruit stand was supposed to be a step up, but once the law went into effect, you should have seen it. The mangoes and mammies falling into the ground. No one to pick. Perez says next year, when her kids graduate college, she's planning to leave Florida. She's done. She shakes her head and gets back to packing more limes. We all lost out here, she says. We all lost. The other aspect of this that people are not like taking into account is that it also increases the prices in general. But ultimately, constantly, because it is inherently fucking fascist, obviously, it is a suicidal ideation. White nativist immigration policies deliberately create a system that is a two-tier immigration structure, a two-tier labor force that creates a hyper-exploitable labor force that is constantly coming in here from every other country because they have no other opportunities, because they're fleeing violence, they're fleeing climate change related issues in their own domestic economies. I'm not kidding when I say we don't care as much about the wages and money as much as we care about being able to travel to our home country and be able to come back legally. No, 100%. Anyway, so this entire conversation is idiotic.
Smart guy.
But ultimately, it's good that Biden did this, and, you know, you'll see a lot more Republicans go fucking crazy mode. And if the Democrats don't actually turn around and defend this policy and humanize undocumented immigrants, as they have not really done so for the past 4 years, they truly dropped the ball on that. America will, you know, they'll drop this aspect as well.
Calling it amnesty is a lazy and incorrect way to describe what's going on. Why don't you go tell your Republican friends in Congress that if they were really, really interested in trying to solve this issue, they would join Democrats and do this legislatively, both strong border security as well as expanding legal pathways. That's what works, and that's what the American people support.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that what Joe Biden did on his first day in office, canceling all of Donald Trump's executive orders, hurt him or helped him with the American people on this issue?
It helped our system try to recover from the evisceration of what happened to Donald Trump. Because, see, here's the problem, Scott. Not everything has to be based on polls and politics. Some things, actually, real leaders focus on real solutions because it's good for America. And you know what? When you actually put solutions in front of party and politics, the party and politics follows. This is good policy and it's good politics.
All right, guys. Great debate, spirited debate. We'll do it again some other time.
DeSantis crackdown on the employers. That seems like the right direction. Can you tell me why that's wrong? Do you not understand what I'm saying? Brother, that crackdown leads to actual human beings leaving the state of Florida. Okay? I fundamentally do not believe that we should go after the employers either. I'm using that as an extreme example of someone who's like, yeah, I fucking love racism that much. I'm saying that is objectively bad. And the real solution to this issue is to document the existing labor force. Why is it a bad thing to dismantle a system that allows for immigrants to be hyper exploited? Because it's literally, guys, do you think Ron DeSantis did this because he was worried about undocumented immigrants being hyper exploited? If that's the case, why didn't he document them? What are you talking about? I hope that doesn't help immigrants. Legalizing them does. Yeah, exactly. What is going on? You don't get it. We're fixing the post office by underfunding it. Yeah, Americans have fucking one speed, bro. I swear to God. They literally... Are we just like, I hope that this is a top of the hour ad break debate. I fucking hate that chatters are already like rating it. You know, I've lost the fun in it all at this point. I swear to God. The kick video yesterday broke all of our brains. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck is going on in this goddamn community. Anyway, here's the 3-minute ad break now.